Hi everybody and welcome back to another amazing AutoCAD video. Today I want to go over the last of the major modify commands, which are the array commands as well as the offset command. Now when you're drawing objects in AutoCAD, sometimes you want them to form a pattern. Maybe the best example I can give you is if you want to place columns throughout a floor plan. Columns are typically placed in rows and columns evenly so that they distribute the load of the building evenly as well. The patterns of columns can vary depending on the building. For the most part, they are spaced out evenly throughout. If you want to get 4 rows of 5 columns in each row placed about 20 feet apart, that's something that the rectangular array command could be very helpful with. So I want to demonstrate this command with a unique shape. So let's go ahead and come into AutoCAD line command. Let's draw kind of a lopsided triangle, something that looks a little bit like this. I'm going to go ahead and highlight this object, and then I am either going to click on the array command up here in the ribbon right next to the scale command, or I can type AR, hit enter, and then CAD just wants to know what kind of array do you want to create. So we're going to create a rectangular array first. Go ahead and click that, and whoa! So much has happened already on the screen. First, you'll see that that triangle has now replicated into several columns and several rows. Let's back up a little bit so you can see. That's pretty cool. There's some grips in there. I'm going to show you what those are. But first I want to bring your attention up to the ribbon. You'll see that that has completely changed. Anytime you see a green check mark, that means you're in a kind of edit mode. So CAD is saying, hey, this command has some things for you to look at and to adjust, and when you're done, then just hit the green check mark and you'll go back to your original drawing. Alright, so in this ribbon you can see that there are a couple different panels. There's a columns panel, there's a rows panel, there's even a levels panel. So levels actually has to do with 3D. And I'm not really going over the 3D capabilities of AutoCAD in this series, so we're just going to kind of ignore that. But in the columns and in the rows panel, you'll see that they have pretty similar fields that we can change. So we can tell AutoCAD, hey, I want to have 6 columns instead of 4. So go ahead and change that to 6, and then you'll see that there are actually now 6 columns of triangles. Maybe I want to have only 2 rows instead of 3, and there we go, there's that. Actually, I want to make that 4 just for future demonstration purposes, so I'll zoom out just a little bit more there as well. The in-between, that will tell you the distance between the shapes. So if I want that to be more like 15 feet in between, we can do that, and you'll see how it squishes the triangles together. Same thing with the between in the rows part. Like if I want that 15 feet, I could type that and now it gets really squished. Total is like the total distance it spans. So if I actually want these triangles to be evenly spaced in a 100-foot measured space, that's what I would put in here. So I could put 100 foot, hit enter, and those columns will space those triangles over 100 feet of measurement. Same thing with rows. If I actually want that to be 60 feet, we can do that. If I want it in 10 feet, that's where things get a little crazy. Whoa, they kind of do something like that. So it's up to you to decide what you want. I'm going to put it back at 40 feet. Now the associative button that you see here, what I want to explain about that is if you leave it turned on like it's showing right now, when you go back to your drawing, once you click that green check mark, it's going to treat that array as if all those triangles are one object. So when you click on one, you're going to highlight them all. If you turn this off by just clicking on it, once you hit that green check mark, you'll see that the triangles actually become individual lines again. And when you click on one, you're just clicking on the line, you're not actually highlighting the rest of the array. For the most part, most people keep the associative on, so I am as well. And then we're going to go ahead and click the green check mark, and you'll see when I click on it how it clicks on all of them. Also, you should notice that once you click on array, it automatically puts you into the edit mode again. So always look for that green check mark. That will tell you that you are in edit mode. The last thing I want to show you about the rectangular array is these grips. So this bottom left-hand corner is kind of called a move grip. It's square in shape, and if you click on it, you can actually move the entire array anywhere on the screen that you want to. You can bring it back to where you were. The triangular ones closest to that move grip, they allow you to kind of eyeball the spacing in between the objects. So if I click on this triangular grip and I move it to the right, you'll see how it actually spaces out those triangles. Same with this guy right here. It'll space them out. So you can either space them out in the ribbon or you can eyeball it with the grips. The further grips that are further away from the moving grip, those will add or delete. So let me actually get this a little bit smaller so that I can demonstrate this a little bit better. There we go. If I click on this and I move to the right, you'll see how it adds columns. If I click on this and go upwards, it adds rows. And then when I click on it and go backwards, you should see that it actually can delete columns as well. That's all I had to show you for this command, and we're going to be on to the next. Polar array copies and clones images in a circular pattern instead of a rectangular pattern. So let's draw a rectangle. Come in here. I'm going to make it kind of tall and thin. I'm going to also raise up one side just so that you see a shape that's recognizable and you can understand how it's rotating in the command. With the object selected, I'm going to initiate the command. So polar array is located in the ribbon associated with the rectangular array, but it has a circular icon associated with it. So you can click that, or you can type array polar. I know, it's kind of backwards. Now once you do that, AutoCAD wants you to select where the center point is going to be. So this will be the point that that shape will revolve around. So if I click on this point right here, whoa! It sure as heck did revolve around that point instantly, didn't it? So notice the green check mark is present, which means that we are in an edit mode. The ribbon changed as well. It's kind of similar to what the rectangular array did. There are fields that we can change. Like for instance, we can tell it that we want it to have 5 objects instead of 6, or any other number. Let's do 15. What the heck? Let's do it. Wow, that looks pretty cool. The between and the fill are a bit related. When one changes, the other does too. I like to work with fill a little bit more because I can tell it that I want all 15 of these objects to fill just 90 degrees of the circle instead of all 360 degrees of the circle. So for instance, I can come up here and I can change that 360 to 90, hit enter, and look at that. All 15 of those shapes now fill that 90 degrees of that circle. I'm going to put it back to 360. Rows, that has to do with how objects appear on the outside. So for instance, if I do 2 rows, then you'll see that that object again does appear around the outside. It's still connected to that center point. Look what happens when I do like 15. Yo, that really puts all those out there. That's pretty cool how that can do that. Now, right now, what this is telling me is that this whole thing spans 256 feet from one side to the other. So let's say that maybe I just want it to be 100 feet. That's what that total is for. Go ahead and type 100 feet and hit enter, and you'll see how it changes the shape. Isn't that pretty cool? I'm going to put it back down to one row, just to make it a little easier to see what we're working with. Associative works the exact same way that rectangular array does, with it turned on. When you hit the green check mark, the shape will connect together, so it'll move as one. When you click on one shape, they all will select. If it's turned off, when you hit that green check mark, then the rectangles will be able to be selected one at a time. The rotate items is kind of interesting. It allows you to keep the rectangle upright, but it still places it circularly around that center point. So that's kind of a funny little button. And then direction just allows you to go clockwise or counterclockwise. See how that little grip changes? If you click on that little triangular grip, you can see how you can actually manipulate the shape this direction, and then when it's turned on, it's actually the opposite direction. A little tricky, but it's kind of fun to play with, so just get kind of comfortable with what it's doing. I'm going to hit escape to get out of that. Click green to be done, and then you're back in your drawing mode. And then when you click on it again, it will go right back into the array edit. For the most part, that's all I wanted to show you with the polar array. I like to use it for things like ceiling fans or light fixtures. There's a few things that we can work with it. But up next is going to be the offset command. Offset is a command that you're going to use often. So anytime that you want to show the thickness of an object, like a wall in a floor plan view, you're going to want to create a parallel line to show that thickness. And that's exactly what offset does. It clones a line and places it a certain distance away. So to demonstrate, let's draw a line, click, and let's just do a random diagonal line, something like that. Go ahead and initiate that offset command. So you can go up to the ribbon, and it's right next to array. It looks like a C. I always called it a camel hump. Don't ask me why. I'm kind of weird. Or you can type offset in dynamic input. The first question that CAD wants to know is, what distance do you want to create away from the original line? So let's say 1'6". Enter. And now it wants to know which object do we want to offset. So let's click on the line. And before we actually click, notice that you can place that cloned line on either side of the line. You can't place it above or below. It's always on the flat side, is the side that you can essentially offset a clone. So pick a side, it doesn't really matter. Go ahead and click, and it placed that line 1'6" away from the original line. That's pretty easy, right? We can do that with shapes too. So let's draw a circle. We haven't done a circle yet. Click and drag out the circle. Go ahead and choose the offset command. Let's do 10 inches. What the heck? What does that look like? Click the circle, and then notice that you can place it inside or outside the circle. I'll go outside. And, you know, what the heck? Let's go inside. Let's see what happens when we get really close to the center. Oh, it doesn't really do a whole awful lot. Oh, there's a little baby circle, but it probably won't go in any further. And actually down here in the ribbon, down here in the command bar, it says cannot offset that object. But that is how you can create thicknesses of things, how you can place a parallel line a certain distance away. I use this all the time when I'm drawing floor plans or elevations. It's just such a handy tool, and it is really truly this simple to use. So that's all I have for you. In the next video, I want to go over how to create blocks and how to use the explode command.